we live? I think we're live.
Everything's fine. Everything's okay.
And surprising.
Are things not usually okay?
Usually.
So I think we should probably jump right in because we've got tons of stuff to do. For folks just joining us or folks who may have forgotten, we're taking the FreeCodeCamp project from the Web Development Certification, the very first one, that survey form, and I'll drop that in just to remind you which one that is. And we're building it out into an actual sort of proper survey with a back end. So that means the JavaScript control logic, and also Couchbase is our database. How far did we get yesterday?
Wait, what did we do yesterday? We had some HTML, we had some JavaScript, we had some GitHub repo, we had some database, we have
Yeah.
a
I
Couchbase
think we
account.
got just about as far as stealing or importing our HTML, getting VS Code set up. We got our GitHub repo going. Could you drop that in the chat and I'll share it across all channels just
All
so
right,
folks can
the
follow
GitHub
along with the
repo.
GitHub repo?
Yep.
Everything is easy. Everything is fine.
Back to the GitHub repo.
If y'all can hear loud, loud sounds in the background, that is my worst cat screaming. There's nothing wrong with him. He just likes screaming.
And
It's very unprofessional, but there is a non-zero chance you
survey.
all will see my worst cat as well in a moment.
Are we in a professional setting?
My cats are very ugly, so they are even less professional. Like they're
Yeah. They're fine. They're sweet cats. Usually
But
hairless cats.
they're very gross. Mine are very gross. If you've got a hairless cat, if somebody else out in the internet either does, I'm sure they're perfect, complete. Mine are just horrid little goblins. So we've got that set up. We've all got the GitHub so we can watch along or raise issues as we see them.
Yes.
Everything's fine. Everything's durably fine.
So let's go back to where we were yesterday. I'm going to sign in again to. I hope I remember the thing I did yesterday.
Was it plus FreeCodeCamp at the front or at the end? Or everything's fine.
Brilliant. We had a Couchbase bucket and scope and collection, which is the place where we store stuff. We had a website that looked bad.
Do you know what? This is very performant. This is great for folks who don't want a lot
And I was
of.
saying, hello.
Yeah. And that was just to sort of let us know that JavaScript worked. That alert will probably take it out.
Yes. And then what we want to do in the end is deploy that website to Netlify, because Netlify is that you probably have set up if you follow along which chapter over there, chapter 2, chapter 1, chapter 3 with Naya,
This is chapter
the thing we did last week.
Oh, chapter 2 with Naya. So with Naya, the first day we did VS Code, the second day we did GitHub, and on the third day we did Netlify.
Right, chapter 3.
And they showed us this drag and drop to deploy, which I was pretty impressed by.
Which we're not going to use today. But it's cool that it exists.
Try the harder one today.
Yeah. And then we're going to deploy all that thing on Netlify, which means the HTML code, the CSS code, and the JavaScript code. And we're going to do even something better. We're going to create a Netlify function. A Netlify function is a little server hosted by Netlify that will execute your backend code, which means you'll be creating some backend code as well.
And when I talk to people, when I talk to learners who've never heard of a server before, I like to think about it as a waiter or waitress, like an actual server in a restaurant, because they stand at. They're sort of part of the computer far away. And you send them a request and say, "Hey, I'd like this from the database," or "I'd like to put this in the database." And they give you or fetch you or take away things as required. Not
Yes, that's a good.
comparison.
I like this comparison. I used it to explain reactive programming to people, but and I take a terrible restaurant analogy, so it's maybe not for today. But we can talk about it in I don't know. Is there a reactive programming lesson on the FreeCodeCamp things?
There's not yet, but I bet we can sort something out. But for now, I'm going to aggressively keep us on track. So what we're doing, can you make this just a teeny tiny bit bigger? I'm sure everybody else can see that I've
Yes,
got elderly
absolutely.
old lady eyes. Fabulous. Because here we're in the terminal again, which
Is it
always
offices?
feels a
I
little
guess we can
scary.
probably do something like this.
Yeah, I'm happy hiding down here.
Terminal is nice. Terminal with your friends. All right.
Terminal is more afraid of you than you are of it.
Absolutely. And so in the terminal, what we're going to do is wait. So about Netlify, you drag and drop some stuff on chapter 3. I don't remember if you installed the CLI. You did?
I don't remember if we installed the CLI either.
So if you type something like, well, if you just type Netlify, if it's installed, you should see some stuff coming up. And if it's not installed, it should say something like command not found or something like that, which is fine. There's some instruction on Netlify website that should tell you how to install Netlify. It's probably npm-g Netlify, something like this.
And we used Homebrew with Naya. NPM is going to feel a lot like going and getting Homebrew for the first time. It's a package manager, just like Homebrew. It's just a fancy developer way to install things.
So Homebrew on Mac, you have Scoop or Chocolatey on Windows, and in Linux, then every Linux distro has its thing.
Oh, every Linux.
Well,
I've
not
been
every,
saying to the
most
boot
of them.
campers that I don't really do a lot of support for Linux because if you put Linux on your computer, you probably did it on purpose and you probably know what you're doing.
Probably know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So I have all those commands that showed up. This is all the stuff that you can do with the Netlify CLI, add an API build, dev, which is a local dev server, which is great. That's what we're going to use in a minute. And something you want to make sure is that you are logged in with Netlify. So if you type Netlify login, it's probably going to scream at me and say you're already logged in, which is great. If you're not logged in, it's probably going to open the Netlify page on the Netlify website and tell you this is how you log in. You just username, and password, everything, and you should be all good to go.
Easy,
My
easy.
Netlify is insanely slow today. I don't know what happens. It's fine.
It's because it wants an
So
update.
yes,
It's an optional
available. You should. Yeah, I'm not. It's fine. Already logged in Netlify config on your machine. Run Netlify status for account detail. Netlify switch to switch accounts. Everything's fine until I am logged in. What I'm going to do now is start up the developer server by typing Netlify dev. What is
So this is us starting a server right now. And this is a server for us to work with. So it's not going to be shown to users quite yet, but this is for us to build on?
Yes, it's our little server. It's going to allow us to do some cool stuff. Probably. Once it works. It might complain about some stuff. If it's complaining, usually it's complaining because it cannot find dependencies. Yes.
So we've talked a little bit
You were going to
about
say something.
local stuff that's local and local host. What does this mean? So we've looked at like opening an HTML file that's saved locally on your computer. I think maybe local host 8888 and the server have a relationship. What are these?
I mean, that's a good question. A machine is identified by a name, localhost, or an IP. If it's localhost, usually it's 127.0.0.1, and that's the identification of your machine. On your machine, you
Okay.
can run different things for different people. If you go to just localhost, it would actually go to what we call the port 80, and that's usually where you provide website. But you don't have to provide just websites. A machine can provide different services on different ports, so different numbers. Those numbers go from 0 to 65,000
Oh
ish.
gosh, quite a few. So this
Quite
is
a
sort of the
few opportunities to
address
provide services.
locally where the server's running. It's not on the internet out in the world. It's on our computer, but we can get to it via this address.
Yes. So
Very
if
chill.
I click, let me select my app. So look at the, it's tiny, I'm sorry, it says file. It's on my hard drive, basically. It's the file I've created. Now, if I go back and open localhost 888888. Oh, it's opening twice now. What have I done?
Everything's
Anyway, it's
fine.
the same thing, but a different address, right? I can go here, you can see it's a file, and here it's an address. It's a local web server running our website, which is
Okay, so
cool.
it feels like the same thing as opening the file, but conceptually, this is a server
It is a little bit
serving us our
different.
website on our machine, whereas the other one is opening a static file on our machine. Okay, yeah. And I think that
So
this will
what that
probably make
means
more
is,
sense as we continue to build out a back end.
yes, what it means is you have a server, and that server works because it's displaying what you want to display, which is quite cool. I'm gonna type Control C, and I'm gonna stop my server, and I'm gonna do something wild and different.
Something
I'm
wild.
gonna push that. Well, I guess I'm gonna push that to production now because it works and it exists. It does
So
things,
we've
which is
talked
great.
about this. I absolutely know the answer to this
I
one.
just need to,
Production is the live site. That's where actual humans can come and see it. Not that devs aren't humans.
yes. I was gonna say some of them, but that'd be mean. Most of us. Wait. How does it work? Right. So to do that, I need to create a website. So I'm gonna log into Netlify. Am I logged in? No, I need to log in to Netlify.
It'll take just a second. This is all
There's a lot of
extreme.
setting up things in the beginning of a project. It's fine. I urge everyone to do those setup nicely because the better your setup, nice and tidy, the faster you're gonna write and the better experience you're gonna have. It might seem like a lot of trouble at the beginning, but it feels better than just struggling as you go.
And I think this is a really, really important point for new developers because it can feel really hopeless. So when Nye and I were going to get Git set up, we went to go, oh, let's sign up for GitHub and let's run it. Oh, no, we need to install Git. And then we hit a wall again to say, oh, we need to install Homebrew before we can install Git, before we can use GitHub. Um, and this is reassure us with us. This is not unusual at all, is it? This happens.
Now it's always the same for every new project. Or even if you're coming up to a project that exists, you want to set up your VS Code to work with that project, you want to set up your local environment, you want to set up all those things.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds okay.
So I've created on a new site, and it said import existing projects. Now the good thing is our project is already live somewhere. It's not in production, but the code is open. It's on GitHub. So I'm going to select this, deploy with GitHub, and it's going to ask me some permission, or it's going to ask me what project do you want to deploy. Now it's asking me if I want to authorize my other accounts. Not really. I don't care. I just want a personal account.
I just want to make this work.
So there we go. And now it's gonna, yeah. And now it's listing all the crazy repositories that I have and that I can deploy. I've called mine.
Could you make this just a
How do
little
I call
tiny
my
bit bigger? I'm going to
project?
always ask this just because my eyes are
Yes,
rubbish.
that is fine. That should be better. Um,
Oh, perfect.
fCC survey.
That
fCC
sounds like what we've called it.
survey. Right. So if you don't have your own GitHub repo because you didn't follow along, that's fine. What you can do is go on the link we've posted earlier, and you can actually fork that repository, and it will be your own GitHub repository. A fork is basically cloning a GitHub repo in your own organization so that you can do whatever you want with it. And what people do is they either they go on their way and they do their own thing, or they do this to create pull requests. Pull request is I wrote some code and now I want to send that code back to the original project because I want to enhance that project. I want to fix a problem. I want to make a feature better. I want to do all those things.
So creating a fork is sort of like making a copy to add to, sort of like if you're on TikTok and you can take a video and then duet, which is just adding extra content on top of the existing copy or changing the existing copy. And that's when
Absolutely.
the analogy kind of falls down, because if you take a repo and you fork it to make your own copy and make some changes, you could add a pull request that says, take these changes I've made to my copy and put them back in the original project with permission. Yeah.
So I have my Netlify import open. It's asking me for some settings. It's my team. It's my main branch. Do I want to do anything else? Do I want to change any of this? Not really. It's fine. The default should work. I'm gonna click on deploy fCC survey. It's gonna do some magic, and then my website will be live
So
online.
this is a different
It
process,
says
but this is
site
doing the
deploy in
exact same
progress,
thing.
which is good. It's giving it a random name.
Singular buttercream is a delightful
Yes,
random
it's like
name.
netlify.dev, netlify dev, the thing. I know we get very lucky. Um, it's doing its thing, it's deploying my website. This is great. And then after that, we won't see this in this stream series, but you can add your own domain, you can add your own stuff. What's great about Netlify is that it also gives you a random domain so that you can test easily without having to buy your own domain name and configuring your own domain name and all those stuff.
Super
Um,
chill.
Site deploy in progress. Oh God, what happened?
That's okay, it failed. So what we're doing is
Oh, so yes, that should not happen on your account. That's happening on my account because I'm an idiot. And I deactivated
is
the
that the
Netlify app
technical
on
explanation?
GitHub, on my GitHub account, which is not something you should do.
It is, and the thing is, while you're getting that settled, because I imagine you're gonna do that in a window we can't see. One thing I'd really like to stress to folks is these error messages look terrifying, especially for beginner developers. The desire to just give up is overwhelming. So, "We couldn't deploy your site. Check out our documentation." Scary. Suspended.
Do
Dun,
you
dun,
see
dun.
that? I should not have done that. I did it. It's my fault. I will fix it. And hopefully
There's
things
no
will
fault.
work.
Everything's
Because if it's
fine.
not that, then I don't know what it is.
If it's not that, we will go
Alors,
offline, have a ponder, and then come back for a double session tomorrow, which will make everyone sad. And the cool thing is we're scheduled to work on this again tomorrow, and we're scheduled to work on this again Monday. So there's
fingers
no
crossed.
hurry. There's no worry. Everything's genuinely as easy as it can be. But while you're doing that, whenever we see an error message like this, error checking out repo, please verify Netlify app installation on GitHub. If you knew what that was, and that's useful, but if you didn't know what that was, we could have copied and pasted that and put it into our search engine of choice. We just said, hey, DuckDuckGo, or hey, Bing, or hey, Google, what does this mean? And you don't even have to say, what does this mean? You could just give it the error message. Because I promise, unless you've done something brilliant that no one has ever seen before, it's probably an error message that people have docs for on the internet. Oh, but while I was chattering, it
Most
worked.
time, yes. It worked. So if I go back to site overview, you can see now I have a small address called singular buttercream thing.netlify.app. So if I click on this, I have my website.
Oh,
I have my
amazing. And
Java
you could put
website.
that into the chat and that would work. That would just work. So if other people click on it, they'll see the same thing as we go.
Yes, absolutely.
That sounds like I'm bossing you
Easy
around.
as.
And that's only because I'm bossing you around.
It is fine. There's something I forgot to post as well because I've been a table person. If the
Is that
Netlify
actually the case?
function doesn't work, you can use this as well. So, all right, something's weird.
Something's always a little weird.
Oh no, that's fine.
Okay, because you didn't say that in a way that sounded fine. Oh
I was
no,
looking at my
that's fine.
JavaScript code, but that's something we did not push to GitHub the last time.
We
So, so,
didn't.
so we don't have JavaScript deployed, which is why it's not sending an alert. But at least we have our beautiful form and a beautiful website
So
live, which is
let's start writing
great.
some of that JavaScript.
Absolutely. So, so one thing I didn't talk about quickly, because we used Netlify's GitHub integration, each time I'm going to push some new code through GitHub, it's going to trigger a redeployment on Netlify without us having to do anything. No drag and drop, no nothing. It just work. And
Okay.
that's fantastic.
That does sound sort of low-key fantastic.
So I'm going back to my dev server, netlify.dev, and and it's gonna do stuff. All right, let's go to form.js. Form.js is the JavaScript that's executed on our page when it's loading. When the page is loading, I was displaying an alert. Now I want to do something a little different. What I want to do is do something
So const, and
when
don't worry if you haven't seen
someone
these.
clicks on submit.
So let's talk this through. A const is a fixed type of object,
So my thing
isn't it?
is,
If y'all can hear screaming, I promise it's just
it's
my cat.
yeah, that you need to give a name as well. It is a type of object.
And we'll learn about different ones when we start
I
working with
just declared a
JavaScript.
variable called form.
Yeah. I mean, a const is not, a const is a variable, but not. A const is an inflexible variable.
In my HTML code, you can see the form element as an attribute called ID. So I'm going to copy that attribute. I'm going to go back to my JavaScript.
Oh, that's
And I'm going to paste
fantastic.
that.
So here you're saying, I want to create a constant variable, a fixed variable, and I'm going to call that form. And it's going to be equal to this element. So go to the HTML document and get the element with this IG and its survey form, the same one we used in our CSS. Cool.
Absolutely. Now I have the object, I can do magic with it. And magic may be a strong word. But I can code, and code is with magic. What do you do with a form event? With a form object, sorry. Well, you add an event to that thing, an event listener.
Okay.
And an event listener is
Kind of what it sounds like.
Well,
You listen.
it's exactly what it sounds like. When something happens, do something.
Okay.
So when the submits even happen, run a function.
And we're going to write that function in a second, I bet. Oh, that's and functions
Right
and
now,
concepts.
right now.
We want to give them names that sound like what they do or sound like what they are. Async function. Okay. And here's where we're writing this function out for the first time. If you haven't done JavaScript yet, all JavaScript functions are going to be sort of shaped a little bit like this. So you're going to say that it's a function. You're going to call its name. The smooth braces where we put our parameters, what it needs to take. And inside those curly braces, that's where we're going to put what happens, what we want it to do, our polite request. So here, I'm not really sure what
Right. So we have a thing. Well, that's a good question. The default behavior of a form button is to reload the page. We don't really want to reload that page. So we're going to say prevent default. Actually, it's more than that. There's more to it. Usually people do that as well.
That makes sense. We want to avoid the default. And then,
right.
just looking at this language, we've seen our console a couple times. And we know that our console's sort of streamed information view. This is a place where we can see what's going on. And again, if you haven't used it yet, we'll definitely see it again.
All right. And if I click, and if you reload that page, I'm going to do a hard reload actually.
And here in the console, we can see
first of all, it's complaining about stuff.
Okay, let's take a look at these complaints. Can we move us to the other side again?
Can't find. Right.
Oh, or if you pull the window a little bit up.
Oh, right, that's true. We are right in the middle. That's fine. I just removed our faces from the. No, you really don't. Now we can do some weird faces. Errors. It's complaining it doesn't find a favicon. That's the favicon. Like, oh, it's fine. I haven't planned for that. Favicon is the icon that you see on the left of the tab. So Netlify favicon is here. Couchbase logo,
you know, all that tiny error. Like, hey, I couldn't find a cute picture.
Absolutely. Now it's complaining about a file called styles.css and it's not finding it. So my bet is that I forget the S.
We didn't add them. Remember last time we looked at how we could add them, but didn't add them. Oh, styles. No, you're
they're empty, but yeah.
Ah, nice.
So this error should be fixed. And then it's saying form is null. Why is form null? A question to which I have currently no answer. What's going on? Where is my JavaScript file? So what it's saying basically is that this thing doesn't exist.
Okay, that's very reassuring error. Say, hey, this isn't real.
We somewhat touched on this yesterday. Somewhat. Do you remember what happened when you load your JavaScript here instead of at the end of the?
That it loaded before our form loaded. So the issue here, and this is why they always tell you to put your JavaScript at the bottom, isn't it? That our JavaScript loaded, and it loaded before that form element it was getting by ID loaded. And it said, hey, I've loaded the JavaScript and I can't actually see your form. So you're out of luck.
There's different ways you can prevent that. Sometimes you want to load your JavaScript in the head
Oh,
because well, you want to make sure that something happened before the page loads, and sometimes you
okay.
don't, and sometimes you strictly want to wait. So we have a way of asking for other events. There's an event when someone click on submit, but there's also an event ran at different stage of the page being rendered. So once the page has been fully loaded, you can decide to do X or Y. So let's see if that worked. Ooh, I have another new error. I don't have
And
the
that's a good
style.
thing.
Error are great because it tells you basically what you did wrong.
Oh, so this is fine. So we've said we want it to handle form, but handle form doesn't exist yet.
I mean, it does, but
Oh, it
with
does.
the right, yeah.
So in the boot camp, we've learned again and again that while there are conventions for how we do capitalization,
Oh,
HTML doesn't care. JavaScript cares so much. Laurent.
oh yeah.
Oh, 99. Obviously cheating.
Submit. Oh my God, it worked.
Oh, so we've got this. So let's go back to the code because here in our console, we can see a form was submitted. And I think that's really
Yes,
interesting because we said to log this message to the console. And that's what it did. It just sent us this note saying, hey, this function works. This function does something. Now you can continue to build it out so it does what you actually want it to.
and you can even check out the line number here. It's line number 6. So let's go to form.js, line number 6, and what you see is yes, a form was submitted. So now we are in a position where we can do something when someone click on the button, which is cool because what we need to do is actually store that thing into a database. So how do we do that?
How do we do that?
Well, that's a great
We
question.
can't just say, like we said, console log, we can't just say give to database. That sounds a
I mean
little bit too easy.
that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Oh, sorry.
You could say that, but you would have to create a function that's called give that thing to a database and then do a whole bunch of code in there. So we are going to stick with our handle form function and we are going to put all that code right there. How do we want to proceed?
Oh, this is a you question. You are the boss. I am merely the hands-off pair programmer.
Couchbase, it's a database, it stores JSON stuff. So I guess
Yeah.
my main question here is how do I get the JSON that I want to send to my database?
Oh, so it's going to send us. So when we push submit on the form, it's going to send us
Because
information. And I think the question is, what kind of format is that data in?
that's the thing, right? What is it? How do you get that data out? There's a
Oh,
property
is
on
to
the
turn it into an object.
event,
Sorry, my.
right? Actually, I'm going to be a little more specific for the sake of learning, and I'm going to rename my variable into event because what happened is, well, there's a submit event, and a submit event has different method and properties. It has a thing called target. So we are going to try to log that target object. Let's see what it does. I'm going to reload the page, and I'm going to submit that thing again, and it's loading an object. It's loading the HTML form. So I know I have that HTML form, but it doesn't look anything like a JSON string.
No, what does that look like? It looks like almost like HTML. Is it? Hmm. How weird.
It's exactly what it looks like. It is HTML.
Oh,
The question is, what does JSON look like? Because we've been talking about JSON, but
we
maybe you don't
haven't
know what
seen it yet. Let me go
JSON
get
looks
a
like.
link to, I
So when you get
bet.
that link, I am going to prepare for what's next.
I'm going to grab a link to Jason from MDN. And MDN is sort of like the Wikipedia for web development. I'm not just, oh gosh, do you know what? In the last couple of boot camps, I used to say, I don't work for Mozilla. I just really, really like MDN. And now I'm in a bit more of a challenging position to say I work for Mozilla Foundation, different place, and I still quite like MDN.
MDN is the place for any web dev documentation. That's what I use most of the time. It's a great resource to learn about things. Like they really take time to explain, not just something to copy paste from Stack Overflow. They actually explain stuff to you, and I think that's great that they're doing this because they don't have to, and that's what makes it so cool and special.
And they've given us this little cheat sheet for JSON grammar, which is really nice. Yeah, so it looks like some wiggly characters added to our data. That'll be cool.
Right, so let's try and see what that code does. Because I transformed that form HTML into form data. So what is form data?
Oh,
Oh, right.
it looks
I
like
didn't.
Laurent's
Oops.
Wi-Fi is just taking a teeny tiny break, which is extremely fine. Honestly, at this time of day, I'm thinking about taking a teeny tiny break myself.
I'm back.
Oh,
Am I back?
everything is going to be overwhelmingly fine. Laurent, do we have you back perhaps?
I don't know. I hope.
I can hear you, so I think
Hello,
everything's
it's
okay.
me. Okay, wonderful.
Waiting for you to break
Right.
into the whole song.
Nah, not today. Maybe your cat can.
Hmm.
Um, right. So what I wanted to do was move from that form data into from that form into actual form data, which is what the form data object is going to do, and log that. So if I go back to my page and I click on submit, it has changed. It's not the HTML code anymore. It is an object called form data that
Okay.
has a property name, a property age, and a property user recommend.
Okay, so this looks much more like what MDN showed us that Jason's going to look like.
It looks like a JSON object, right?
I mean,
Almost.
I feel confident. Almost. Oh
Almost.
no. So it looks like it, but it's not a JSON object yet. Is that the issue?
Not yet, but we are gonna make it look like an object. Whoop. And we are going to log the thing. Oops.
Yeah.
All right. So this should look a little more like a JSON object. Um, and actually, we can do something a bit different. We can create a string.
And we talked about this that a string is sort of a string of
Up.
characters that's treated as an object altogether.
Yes. And so what you can do in JavaScript when you are building a string is you can use the attribute of the object in the string, sorry, with a weird syntax, but I assure you it works.
Yeah.
So my string is going to be data and then JSON object dot name, because what you can do with a JSON object is call the attribute directly.
Okay. What
So
does
what
that
this
mean?
thing is supposed to do is log some JSON data. Sorry, what means?
Oh, I was just asking you to explain exactly what you were going on to explain, so
Oh,
everything is
yes,
Joe.
it works. All right. So we have JSON. It works. That's great. Is it the exact JSON that we want? If you remember yesterday, we talked about having a string, an integer, and a boolean.
Yeah,
So let's. Whoops! What did I do? When
that's
you're
okay.
coding and you have and when you're sharing your screen, and then sometimes you click on the stream screen
The
instead of
screen.
your IDE, and it doesn't work, and you're wondering why it doesn't work. That's what happened to me just now. So anyway, I'm gonna
This is why I'm always the
log.
hands-off one.
Yes, lucky you. I'm going to object and see what it's saying. And the JSON object is saying this is an object. There's a property called name. There's a property called age, and there's a property called user recommends. And it says definitely. And I was like, I want a boolean. I want something that's either true or false. How can I get that?
How can we get that?
How can we get that? It has to do with how your form is constructed. And here
Okay.
you see, would you recommend freeCodeCamp to a friend? There's an input, and the value is definitely. And so if you clicked, then the value will be definitely, which is what I had right here. Um, and it's not like the ideal thing and not the ideal type as well. I'm going to make it a checkbox, not a radio button,
Okay. And
because
this
I
will
don't
look
want
a
it to
little
be
bit different in people's projects,
checked by
but we're
default.
just
I want people to actually, I want it to be either true or something.
okay. True or
Um,
false? Clearly? Clearly not?
and true or false, right? Well, you would think it worked like this. Let's test. There's a trap. I
A
haven't clicked, so
trap.
it should say false, right?
Yeah. I think it's going to say a secret third thing.
And it's actually not saying anything.
Really? We don't get
Well,
a
that's the thing.
null out
It's
of
not.
booleans? Oh, so it just
That's the
leaves it
thing.
off.
Yes, which is not great. That's not what we
Okay.
want. We want something that's either false or true. So it is a trick. You can actually do something bad, which
Oh,
is create
you
another
had me
input.
at do something bad.
I know, which value is false and which type is hidden. No one will see it. It doesn't exist, but it's there. It's there, and it has the exact same name. User recommend, user recommend. You see?
Okay.
I'm
And this
gonna
is going to be
give them an
useful
ID to
because
just make
both,
sure that they are different.
I was going to say that's going to be very, very confusing for folks using assistive technology. But here we've got IDs that are different. Should we also add a any other kind of? Well, we'll leave them for right now. We'll come back to this if we need to. This is giving us IDs that let us
Hopefully,
know
this
what
doesn't show up in a screen. Yeah, I hope it doesn't show up on a screen reader. I don't know
but the
actually.
value false should come through. We might want to add a for label
Yes,
later on,
that's
but the for will just associate both of these checkboxes with the question being asked. Everything's fine. So if we refresh, oh,
so.
oh,
Yes, it works.
oh, do you see a false button? I don't see a false button or
Well, there's
false
no
type.
false button. The whole thing was for it to disappear, to be hidden. and to provide
Oh,
the default value if it wasn't submitted or wasn't
so
checked.
I think that this is something someone would call a dark pattern. So secretly, we want them to say yes. So we've either given the option to say yes or nothing, which is false.
It's a checkbox, right? You could have two checkbox. You could have, yeah.
I'm just speaking,
Um,
it's the gentlest dark pattern I've ever seen.
Point is, HTML is weird. If you don't tick the box, you don't get anything, and if you want to boolean out of a box, then that you have to wiggle around and get there.
Yeah.
Um, right. So I have JSON. I have the JSON that I want. Now what do? Blah 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 blah.
Hmm. Oh, we should
What do
send
we
that
what do we do?
JSON
What
to
do
the
we do?
database. What kind of
We
steps are we going to
should.
need to look at to make that
How do we?
happen?
Well, to send it to the database, we need to create a function that's going to do that, and we're going to create that function through our Netlify CLI. They have something called function create, and what it's going to do is add some code to that it can run when you type netlify dev, or that it can run when you push your code to GitHub. Um, and that code will be able to contact our database at some point, meaning when it's created. And right now, things are extremely slow. Right, so you should see something that asking me to select the type of function that I want. I don't want an edge function. I
Oh,
want a serverless function. Ooh, what did I
ooh.
do?
So let's look at the error. No site ID found. Please run inside a site directory or Netlify link. Okay, let's try
Let's
Netlify
try
link.
Netlify link.
Whenever somebody says do one or the other, and one of them looks like a lot of work and the other one looks really simple,
Yeah, just
the
the
simple
second
one,
one.
just a try.
So what happened here is I went to the Netlify UI. I imported my GitHub website, and it created a Netlify site. But my Netlify site that is linked to my GitHub repo is not linked to my local repo. So
Hmm.
now it's wondering, wait, what is it? There's a
So
couple
I
of things you can do.
I think
You
this
can
problem is a
either,
lot like when your index isn't linked to your CSS or JavaScript. So it's the same kind of vibe.
it's pretty much the same thing. It's gonna offer you some ways to link it, to find it. And right now it's asking me, can I use the Git remote to associate automatically your local repository to what I know from the stuff that are on Netlify. So because I linked my GitHub account and my GitHub repo, they have the address of my GitHub repo. It's github.com/ldogoin/fcc survey. Netlify knows that. And locally, it also knows that my local GitHub repo is using this. So if I say use current git remote origin, it should be able to link everything. And it did.
And if it doesn't, I
And the world is
I'm
wonderful.
just so used to things going wrong. I was like, if it doesn't, we'll go ahead and we'll do it the other way.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's fine. All right, let's create a function now, and it should work. Probably, maybe. We
possibly.
have 10
And
minutes late, 10 minutes late. We have 10 minutes left. We have
time is
10 minutes left to
meaningless.
do stuff.
Everything is chill.
What are we going to do?
Like in the next 10
If
minutes or with
anyone
our
has question,
lives?
now would be the time.
Oh, yeah. So if folks have any questions, go ahead and drop them in. But if you don't have questions,
The next 10 minutes, I think it's
Laurent.
fine.
Oh, can I cheat? Um, I actually confess. So up at
You
the stuff
can.
we've done up till now, we could probably help out with um, in the Bad Website Club Discord. But if you need help with getting your database connected to your application, is it okay if I send folks directly to bother you in the Couchbase Discord?
Yes, you can. Absolutely. We are here for you.
What is the link for that just while we're waiting?
That is an excellent question. Let me finish that tutorial,
Of
that,
course.
that wizard first. It's going to ask me a bunch of stuff. I'm going to use the default all the time. And now it's asking me which template you want to use. I'm going to use the hello world template. I'm going to keep it named hello world because I'm lazy. And it has created a file, a new
Okay, that
file.
sounds menacing.
And that's the code of an Netlify backend code. This code. Good question. I don't know.
I'll go and find a link. Everything's fine.
Best way to reach out to us, community.couchbase.com. From there, you should have a whole bunch of links to tell you to get you wherever you want to go. And so while Jess is searching, what I'm going to do is explain you what just happened. And what just happened is we use Netlify CLI to generate some code, some function code. This is what Netlify allows you to do when you want to run some backend code. You create a function, and what it does is something very similar to what we did earlier. It created a function called handler. That asynchronous function has an object called event, and then with that event, you can do stuff like getting whatever was sent to that function, getting parameters, getting a whole bunch of different things. So let's see if that works. I've created my function. I'm going to run netlify dev again, and it's going to run that function for me. Now the question is, how do you call that function? Every function are deployed into a specific URL. If I go back to my Netlify website, I had this URL, and the new function I've created will be available with,
On this URL.
if I recall correctly, slash function on this URL slash function slash hello world, which is the name of my function. This should be written soon. Right. I did Netlify dev just as I did before, but now there's different things. There's two additional lines. There's a new one called whoa. Oh, the
A
good the good
new
thing with
one
Netlify
called
dev is that
Whoa, Whoa,
sometimes it
Whoa,
just
Whoa.
open your page directly, which is great. Um, right. Two new lines. Load that function hello world, which is available on address dash dot netlify dash slash function slash hello world. Function server is listening on 62.57. The global server is still available on localhost 88888.
Okay, so this all sounds like that's just where stuff is living and nothing is too wrong.
Exactly. Can we go to localhost to the address of that function? Yes, we can.
Hey,
And it
so what
says
does this
message hello
function
world.
do? Does it just say hello
Well, that's a good
world?
question.
Oh,
Mo- Mostly.
it looks like it does.
It does two things, right? This is the code of the function. It gets what is called a query parameters, and if it doesn't find it, it says world. A query parameters is what you have after a URL when it starts with a question mark and then something is equal something else.
We saw that, and that came up in one of our streams last week where somebody says, "Hey, that question mark, what's that doing?" And that question mark is it's doing something. There's some kind of function attached to it. And usually when it might be a trafficking function or a routing function on that URL. Cool.
So adding name equals Laurent, it should say hello Laurent. It
Ah,
works.
what a joy.
This is Jason, by the way. Opening brackets and saying that's Jason. She's cool.
Because that's
Why is it
exactly what
Jason?
we
Because we
want.
are sending back Jason. Exactly. Um, so
So I
that's pretty
think,
good. Like we have a
yeah,
function that sends some JSON that can do stuff. that is linked to our page. I guess we have what, 5 minutes left. We can do one more little
We
thing.
should probably save all our work and push it to GitHub.
Push it to GitHub.
And obviously,
Should we?
you would do this on your own. You would naturally do this. If you were doing this and not streaming, you would have been pushing this to GitHub every couple of changes, right? Just best practices.
That would be good. That would be better.
But we're going to model the behavior we'd like our learners to see, which is, hey, let's go ahead and make sure everything's saved, everything's pushed to GitHub, we feel good about it, and then we're just going to have a very chill rest of the day. If you're watching this one and you haven't seen the video before, not a problem. We'll add all of these to the playlist, and we'll add all of these optional sessions for the same project back to back to make sure they flow a little bit better. If you want to see the next one, as long as you're not wanting to see the next one on June 8th, August 8th, it's August, 2023, as long as you're in the future from that. If you're in the past, I have a lot of questions. That should be fine. It'll just come up next in the playlist. So here you're adding a git commit message, which we learned about both with Naya and with Roselle. And the message has got to be really, really good. So add a handler for the submit function. Cool. This tells us what we did. And a hello world. Okay. So later on, when we look through our commits, when we look through our saves, we could say, what was that? What was it? Because this one broke things. What broke things? Git push is where we're pushing all the code out into the ether of the internet. And everything is durably fine. I don't see any questions in real time, so I think we might be free to go about our nights. And are you in the
let's wait to see one more thing.
Yeah. Oh, ooh, one more. I was all like, let's go watch Bruce Lee movies. And you were like, no. No, we're professionals.
And one more
Later,
thing.
we can watch Bruce Lee movies. We've got to stop our server.
No, it's something else.
Oh, did we break something?
It's gonna ask me to merge things, and it's gonna.
Oh, so this is kind of hard mode. Unless something has gone a little bit wrong for you, you shouldn't see these. This is saying, hey, I've got two different versions of your code, and they crash, like there's a conflict. And this is not actually going to hurt us. This is a Git freebase, which I'm terrified of, but every time I actually have to do one, they don't actually hurt me. We will definitely talk about Git conflicts and Git rebasing later on. Because I will promise I will do this again.
What's going on?
Oh, I'm so sorry. And this sounds like I'm picking on him, but it's the opposite. This is especially notable because Laurent has worked with, how long have you been programming? 70 years, 80? Genuinely just ages and ages. So little tiny crashes, little tiny things going a little bit wrong is super, super common.
Don't see that because I'm an idiot.
Right. I wouldn't let the learners talk to them about themselves
scary,
like that.
A little bit, I know.
It's fine. Programming is messy, but it can't hurt us. It's just computers. I say that a lot, but there's a lot of ways computers
All right, so git push done.
Done. We're done. Everything's fine.
Let's take a look at our repository. It should say should display the new stuff. Let's go to Fi and take a look at deploys. And the good thing is because we did a new push, you could see that it's doing things, and it's actually redeploying on Netlify automatically.
Because somebody asked this question. Okay. We got asked this during the Netlify thing to say, hey, will it automatically
Everything's
redeploy every
fine.
time you push? And I said, I don't think so. But I was wrong. And I love being wrong. It's very relaxing.
Actually, it works. So we can do the same test and type netlify functions hello world. And he says message.lol, which is great. So we've pushed our function to production as well.
Everything's
awesome.
perfect.
Good stuff.
Ah, fabulous. In that case, shall we say goodbye to folks watching us both in real time and in the future? And we'll come right back here and
And
do
in the
this again
future.
tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to aim to get as much of the function code written, because right now it just takes the JSON object that says hello somebody's name. And I think we probably want to put in our JSON object for our form data. And then if we have time, we'll work and see if we can't connect that database to it. Amazing.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
We should have
much.
time to do everything. I hope it's fine. We'll have time.
We've got Monday for this as well. Everything's easy.
Oh, it's fine. All right. Thank you so
Lovely.
much.
Bye.
Bye.